Yo! Welcome to the video about the door speedrun guide. This guide is pretty much for the speedrunners that are currently attempting to break co-op world records, aka duos, squads, etc., or even try to go for either solo shop or no shop records. It will include information about certain room generations, how to pass figure on door 50 easily, risking when getting rushed, and so much more. So make sure to stay tuned until the end, and let's get started. Number 1. Room generation. Now, you may think that by easily avoiding entities like rush, ambush by constantly risking is going to get you the job done, but that is seemingly not the case. There are multiple rooms like the key room, the lever room, and the picture room, but also plenty of long hallways such as the celestial hallway, the normal hallway you see in the Seek Chase, or the hallway you get in long, which is presumably the longest and the most annoying one. The rooms you get are randomly generated, so you might either get multiple key rooms in a row or multiple 2-second rooms at once. There are multiple sub-rooms within the key rooms, such as the cross key, the T key, the 8 key, and the L key. Once you start noticing how long you have to look through these rooms for the key, the next thing you will most likely say is, that's a f***ing reset. And unless you're called textured, you're pretty much right about that. You certainly need to be lucky enough with how the key spawns in that specific key room you are currently in. And if you look at the layout of the L key, it is pretty much noticeable that it probably is the most pleasant key room you may possibly get. It is important, however, that whenever you are on good pace and stumble across one of these sub-rooms, that you remember the structure of the room properly. You never know how useful it actually is to remember one's layout until you've actually tried. Moving on, let's get to the lever room, also known as the gate room. It's structured with one of the doors leading to a basement filled with randomly placed barrels and a randomly placed lever. This is one of the randomly generated rooms, and it shows all of the possible lever spawns within it. The closest ones to the door are obviously the best. The ones you need to travel a long distance to, however, do indeed waste a certain amount of time. If you manage to get a vitamin beforehand, then it's going to be useful to use it once you're out of the basement. Same goes for the picture room as well. Looking at the structure, you can see that there's 2 pictures on the left and 2 on the right side. However, this is only one of the many picture generations that you may possibly get. There's a chance for the picture room to have 3 pictures on one and 1 picture on the other side. You also have to sometimes travel different routes because each picture generates into a random spot, meaning that you have to either travel the shortest or the longest distance to place these pictures. Believe it or not, that is pretty much it for the first category of this guide. That was a lot for one category, I could tell, but we're not done yet. We are just getting started, my friend. Let me lead you on to the next category, dear speedrunner. Number 2. Movement. When it comes to movement, it's not about just simply moving around, but also about cutting corners, looting, time saves, and the library itself. Speaking of which, we'll get to the first 2 points, cutting corners and looting. Depending on what room you're exactly on, you sometimes have to get close to the wall and try to cut the corner as fast as possible in order to maybe save a few hundred milliseconds. Thinking about cutting corners a few times in a run, well, that adds up to a few seconds until the end of the run. That's pretty time saving, and I'm sure you want that for you to happen. While you are cutting corners left and right, you might as well start looting the drawers that spawn in the middle of your runs. Why? Well, you certainly need to grab a lighter first. Once you've done that, you can actually start receiving either vitamins or lockpicks, as long as the durability of your lighter is above 50%. If the durability is below 50%, the chances of you getting an item is pretty much impossible until you've exchanged your old lighter with a new one. Speaking of items, lockpicks and vitamins are obviously useful in a run, but some people sometimes are unsure about how to use them. Let me elaborate. When people stumble across an L key, they tend to use the lockpick because it saves around 3 seconds. However, if you remember what I mentioned in the previous category, you'll know that it is the least time wasting key room to exist. So, if you're on pace and you stumble across a room, don't actually use your lockpick on it, especially if you only have one on you. You never know if you stumble across a key room like the cross key or the T key. Vitamins are very useful to use after a rush just stopped by or when you stumble across one of the 3 hallways. For using them, make sure to at least check the room you are about to enter, because if you get a possible gate room, well then you're obviously f***ed. But just make sure that you skip as many rooms as fast as possible. Do not use the pill while rush arrives, because it already uses 30 to 50% of the vitamin's duration while you're hiding in a closet. Let's move on to probably one of the most important things indoors, just like in every other game: time saves. Time saves can be done everywhere, and if you want to know if you are on pace, here's a few things you can possibly know about. Usually, when you are on pace, you want to complete each and every door in at least 6 seconds. Calculating 10 rooms multiplied with 6 seconds, well, that makes up to a minute per 10 doors. Sometimes you're ahead on pace, and sometimes you're pretty much behind pace. If you have a vitamin at hand, only, and I am saying only, use the vitamin if you're at least 10 seconds behind pace, and you know that you're probably going to get a room like a hallway, whether it's shop or no shop. Time saves are also usually done based off of your reaction time, whether it's reacting quickly when to turn into a direction during a seek chase, or how fast you're able to complete library, depending on how quick you can see the books and try to grab them as fast as possible without blurring the figure too much. In this case, memory based off remembering almost every single room structure and detail, and reaction time kind of combine all together. What does this mean? Well, it's not all about just reacting fast enough, because even when doing that, you cannot really prevent randomized room generation. There's a possible chance that based off what rooms you are constantly getting over and over again, you have to pretty much reset your run. So unfortunately, only relying on your skill regarding reaction time and memory won't be the way to achieve victory in this game. Moving on to the last point of the category, let me try to explain how library functions. You basically enter room 50, and the first thing that comes to glance is literally a dollar store Demogorgon with a body most likely copied from Siren Head, also known as the figure. You are probably out there your pants, thinking that the best thing to do is probably just leave the game. But let me tell you that there's actually a proper way to beat figure as a new player. Your goal for this room is to obviously escape the room and move on, but you need to crack the code first. You have to collect a series of books, which include one random symbol and a number in them. You also have to grab a paper that pretty much has the code in it. You may be confused at first, but let me explain how this works. When you look at the paper, you are going to see a series of symbols in a certain order. The order of the symbols are always going to be randomized, but just for you guys to get an idea, this is one of the possible symbol orders that you can get: spade, cross, star, triangle, and circle. Now you may ask, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Well, with the books you collected, you can actually look at the symbols including certain numbers. You basically know that the spade is the first symbol, and the spade, in this case, stands for the number 9, meaning that 9 is going to be the first number in your code. Use this procedure with every other symbol and you will have the following. The second symbol is a cross, and the cross stands for the number 0, so your second number is going to be a 0, obviously. The third, fourth, and fifth symbol have the numbers 4, 8, and 6. If you have placed the numbers in the correct order, your code should be 9, 0, 4, 8, 6. And if you did, the lock should break and you should be able to go through. There's also a small trick to revert mistakes, like picking the wrong number when you're at the lock. If you simply press the right mouse button, it actually reverts back to the previous number you were going for. Last but not least, let's finally get to the route of going through a library during a speedrun. If you look at the map of room 50, you might be confused on where to go first. Let me show you. You first go to the right side of the library, grab the books there, go around this bookshelf, and start crouching somewhere around here, where the circle shows it. You want to crouch all the way until here. There should be a ladder on the first bookshelf on the left side of the map, which will be the part where you'll uncrouch for the first time being. Once you grab all the books in that small part, you want to go towards the desk while being crouched. Make sure to look for the books on the left side that are near the desk. Once you've reached the desk, you want to grab the paper. Figure should be somewhere around here, but sometimes his eye kinda acts weird, and he'll go back towards the middle. Just crouch back when you're on the left side of the desk after grabbing the paper, and wait for him to go on the left side, so you can uncrouch and actually gather the books remaining on the middle right side. Last but not least, you just go upstairs and grab the remaining books if needed. Make sure to start partially reading the code while you've already grabbed 3 or 4 books. Now, let's get to the second last category of this video. There's a few things people might not be aware of yet, so let me just quickly mention them. Number 3. Small strats. You may think that these strats I'm about to list up are going to be useless, but they're actually very effective based on what RNG you get during the runs, that yet again save time. One of these strats are to be seen at Dora 100. When you're standing in front of the electric power, most people just complete it and run back. However, there's something that saves you around 1 to 1.5 seconds. When you press E to access it, you want to go backwards at the exact same time, basically pressing S. What this causes is pretty much you going backwards until the box opens for you to see the switches for the electric power. Texture is one of the people who have used this trick in a solo shop record before, and it's actually great to think about the fact that a few seconds are able to be saved in it. Thanks to him, I actually know that trick. Another thing is a certain ambush strat. People are obviously going to be pissed when they get the second streak early, leading them to getting ambushed after, or even getting him in early doors. However, he can be easily avoided while being able to constantly risk. What needs to be done is basically that you have to open the door once you hear him coming towards you. As soon as the door is open, ambush cannot detect the door being opened in its current cycle, leading to him bouncing off the door and you being safe. However, it requires you to hide in the corner of the room you have opened the door towards. You have to do this each and every time for the amount of times ambush is going to come back and forth, as this trick only works once every time he goes back and forth. And that's already it for this category. Let's finally move towards the last category of this video, which will also include the end of it. Number 4. Patience. Yup. Never thought I needed to say this, but it's something that counts for every game you play or even speedrun, including Doors. And frankly, for this game, it's even worse that it's mostly RNG based. I would say it's only 10% skill based when it comes to opening drawers quick enough and doing the library as fast as you can. Everything else, which is getting the items that you need, the certain room generation, the way the books in the library spawn, it's really painful to think that all of that is just randomly generated, and you can't not really do anything about it except for being patient. The more runs you play, the more bored you're obviously going to become. But if you really want to achieve something you're trying to go for, then I believe giving up isn't going to be the pleasant option for you. I myself would have given up, however, if it wasn't for the people that inspired me to keep on going with everything that I have done for so far. I hope that this video was helpful to you, and I wish you good luck and no fun in speedrunning, because speedrunning Doors is painful, LMAO. On a serious note, I believe in all of you being able to possibly get a record or two in this game, at least for this floor. There's more to come for this game, and I believe that we can all push its limits when it comes to, beating the game as fast as possible. I know that this video might not be as great of a guide, but I hope that I was able to somewhat enlighten you to the great depths of the game. That's all from me. Take care and have a good one.